Yeah. Hi there. We're two coaches, both named Maureen, who are offering some tips and practices to help you have a little bit more ease and perhaps a deeper understanding of situations in your life. And today, Maureen, I'm going to ask you about what's the difference for you in making a phone call or sticking to emails, and perhaps even, dare I say, hiding behind the screen?
Yeah. So I guess you could even divide that into phone calls, in-person meetings, and sort of remote email kind of thing. And to me, there's a difference in the connection that I would have with the person. Email is the least connecting, I think, most of the time. And in person is probably the most connected. And telephone is in between. And I think for me, the uh, say if we were talking about telephones, calling someone, calling a friend, that's easy, right? But calling to ask for something is more difficult for me. So I often migrate to email, and and meeting in person specifically to ask for something is also a bit angst provoking for me. And I might think of it as fear of rejection, or I'm not good enough, those kinds of thoughts. I'm not worthy of this person's whatever it is I'm asking of this person. And so I think it's easy for me to hide behind email and tell myself, oh, that's the most efficient, when in fact, it's not always, because, well, people don't answer emails. And then what do I do with that information? Maybe I worry about it. Maybe there's a bunch of angst that happens. I don't know. Did that answer?
Yes, and what you have said that's really, really important here is it's around the ask.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you want, oh, there's a vulnerability in asking. And so sometimes it can feel in the moment easier because to do an email, because there's a little less vulnerability in that.
Yep.
And so if you're either face to face or on the phone and you're asking and somebody actually says, no, I can't, or that won't work, or something along that line, that's that instantaneous feeling of rejection.
Well, there's a, it may be rejection, or it may be something else. The thing
Yeah.
is that there's an immediate reaction that happens that I either want to convey or I want to hide. And so if I'm face to face or on a call with somebody, I can't delay responding. I need to respond in the moment. And um, and I think that may be, one of the key things is, well, oh gosh, well, like, what am I going to do if that happens?
Yeah.
And of course, it's a fictitious story that I'm telling myself, that I might screw that up in some way, right? But that's the nature of avoidant behavior.
Yeah. 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 And we psych ourselves up with, and I say psych ourselves up because we're telling ourselves things around it,
Yeah.
preparing.
Yeah, preparing for the disappointment or preparing for, like, it's easy to prepare for the success, right? Uh, but I think oftentimes we prepare ourselves for the disappointment, and it actually would be more helpful if we prepared ourselves for success.
Yeah. And wow, I want to know what success to you in this context means.
Success for me in this context, it's funny. Initially I was thinking, oh yeah, it's getting what I want, of course. But in fact, it's not. In fact, it's developing a relationship with that person.
Mm.
And ideally, I get what I want too. That would be ideal. But it's actually the connecting with that person. And so then what's easy to do is to shift the goal from getting what I want, which may or may not happen, to creating some kind of connection with that person, which is likely to happen. It may not be one of long duration, but then the likelihood of success changes.
So, to help our listeners understand how they could even do that, what would be one or two practices that you would or do put into place that helps you to remember that connection is actually what's important here for the success? Not always getting exactly what you want, although that is pretty nice. That makes it a sweeter deal. How do you how do you get there?
Well, one way of doing it could be to um, just journal a little bit and ask yourself what you really want out of this, and just give yourself like half a page to write about it, and that may help you connect to what you really want. Um, Another way that I find useful is to use the information in my body to help me identify what it is that's really sort of causing the avoidance, if you will. And to do that, I can just do a very quick body scan and then breathe into the area of my body that is coming to my consciousness. So for example, I might just scan my body in my mind, and I might notice that my around my lips are sort of twitching, and so I might breathe into that and figure out what it is, how that relates to what it is that I'm planning to do. And oftentimes the idea isn't to remove that twitch or that sensation. It's more just to understand it. So it's really seeking to understand as opposed to conquer and overcome.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that, because that's one of the challenges that many of us have is we notice something and we want to get rid of it. And so what you're doing instead is it's almost like a welcoming it. Thank you for showing up for me.
Yeah, it's
And
working in partnership with it
yeah,
and
beautiful.
using the information that it provides to help me move to the next level, whatever that is.
Yeah, thank you. And just so people know that these are practices and they take time. For some of us, we don't even necessarily have that connection with our body yet. We feel what? And so it's take a moment, pause, scan. You might feel something, you might not, and just go, I don't feel anything. Okay. And these are practices. They take time to actually really find those connections, and it's the awareness, and it's like, hey body, what's happening? How are you? So if it doesn't work for you right at the beginning, continue to connect, because many of us have been taught that it's what's up here is important, and we have kind of lost that rich connection that we can have with our body. And so Maureen, thank you so much for bringing us back home to be in alignment with our body and use the information and say, hey, that's important. Thank you. Is there anything else for our listeners that you'd like to share?
Well, I just thought of the idea that our bodies are our homes in this life. And we, if you have a house, you might treat your house better than you treat your home, your body home. And you might attend to the needs of the house more so than you might attend to the needs of your body home. And I just kind of like that analogy.
Thank you. Lovely. Oh, wow. So thank you so much, Maureen. That was interesting, and it was energizing and fun to expand.
Yeah. And so until next time, we hope you have a wonderful time experimenting with whatever you've learned from the video, and we'll talk again soon.
See you next time.